Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be on healing and grief in regards to breakups. I have been getting a lot of requests when it comes to relationships. So this month might have a lot of content regarding relationships. But I'm going to be speaking not so much on the healing part, but the grief that leads up to the beginning stages of healing. So if you guys like these videos, please do not forget to like, subscribe, also hit that notification button. And if you have any suggestions on content that you guys want to see, you guys can always reach me on my Instagram. I'm always reading my messages, but if I do not get back to you right away, then please do forgive me because I have to filter through a lot of messages that I do receive. So I do not always reply right away, but I do try to get through all my messages as best as I can. But yeah, so let's get into today's video. Grief does not happen in stages. There is not a beginning, middle, or end stage to grief, because along your way through grieving anything, especially a breakup, you are gonna be having this constant, let me take 2 steps forward and then oops, I'm gonna take a step back. That is gonna be a constant thing while you grieve. You know, you're never gonna always have it together. You're gonna always sometimes go backwards on certain things. And that's okay, you know, it's fine for you to go through that, but you also have to, in my case, you have to have a bigger picture. When I was going through my grief, I had a bigger picture of, I want to just get through this. You know, I don't want to keep repeating this for myself. I want to get through this. So I had a bigger picture to when I was grieving or while I was going through what I was going through. And my bigger picture was to just get the hell out of this and get, you know, to the end of it. You cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel when you are going through grief. I'm going to be 100% real with you. You are not going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You are going to think, honestly, that your life is falling apart. And it is going to feel like your life is falling apart. And you are going to have constant days. I'm just being real with you. So don't be scared. Do not be scared. I'm just being 100% raw with you. Is that you are going to have days where you don't even think that you're going to be able to do it. You know, you're going to have days where you're going to think like, oh my God, there is no hope for me to get my life together. And that's fine, you know. But what I have to say when it comes to this part of grief is that, you know, you have to accept the fact that while you are going through grief, there is no right and wrong. There really isn't. There's no such thing as a right way to grieve or a wrong way to grieve. You are grieving, and you are going to have moments where you fall back. You're going to have moments where you go backwards, and that's okay. But just keep in mind at the end of it, keep the bigger picture of, I want to get through it and I want to heal through this. So that is the first thing that I had to come to the realization when it came to grief, is that I had to have a bigger picture. I had to have hope, you know, because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I told myself at the time when I was going through it that, you know, whatever comes of this it has to be a hell of a lot better than what I'm going through right now. So keep pushing, you know, keep going, keep pushing, because whatever is going to come out of this has to feel better than whatever I'm going through now. So that was my bigger picture. That was the bigger picture for me. The next thing that I had to realize was that I needed to acknowledge what I was going through. You know, I needed to acknowledge the feeling. And I think that this is what a lot of people forget or try to, you know, skip over when they're going through grief, is that they don't want to acknowledge their feelings. You know, they don't want to sit with their feelings. And this is a huge thing, because I'm a huge believer that if you don't sit with your feelings, if you don't acknowledge them, they're going to manifest somehow in some other part of your life until you choose to, acknowledge those feelings, until you choose to deal with those feelings. Because until you deal with them and until you acknowledge them, there is no healing. It is going to manifest in other parts of your life. And it's going to continue to manifest until you acknowledge and heal from those feelings. So you cannot run away, and I mean this, you cannot run away from something that is trying to teach you something. It doesn't matter if you try to, start a new relationship. Trust me, everything that you didn't deal with from that last relationship and that last breakup, it will manifest in your new relationship if you keep trying to run away from those feelings. So the biggest thing is that you need to sit in your feelings. You need to acknowledge them. And I think this last time, when I was going through my breakup, this had to have been the first time where I just let go. I let go and I let myself feel these feelings. And out of that, after everything, when I was going through it and I was feeling what I was feeling, I kept telling myself, and I know I've mentioned this in other videos, but I kept telling myself, what you are feeling now, don't ever forget this feeling. Don't ever forget this hurt, because knowing how I felt in that moment, and even still today, I still remember like what I went through. I still remember me, gosh, I didn't even sleep in my room for a good 3 months. I would wake up every hour and cry. And I couldn't even sleep. I couldn't even get a good night's sleep, I mean, I really felt like my life was falling apart. But I told myself, remember these feelings that you are feeling. Because now that I look back on it, now that I remember that, I will never, ever allow myself to ever put myself back in that position. Because I know how painful it was. I know how much it hurts. So by remembering that and sitting in those feelings and knowing that, you went through some shit. You were so hurt. You were probably at one of the lowest points in your life. By sitting in those feelings, it now allows me to this day to know that I will never, never, ever allow myself to ever put myself in that position again. But sitting in your feelings and acknowledging them, it allows you to be able to work through your emotions. And a lot of us are scared and we fear that. We try to run away with it and cover it up with other things. Some people hop into new relationships with other people straight out of a breakup. Some people become dependent on, drugs and alcohol. A lot of people try to cover up things. But what I've learned is that when you cover it up, it's just going to manifest somewhere else in your life until you learn that lesson. So sit in your feelings, acknowledge them, and never, never forget how you felt. Always remember how you felt through the grieving process. I'm not too sure what other people, say on this or what other people believe, but I believe that when something big happens in your life that turned your life around or made you feel so much pain and hurt, that you should never forget how you feel. And for me, it was so that I don't ever put myself or allow to put myself in a position like that again. I also feel that when you sit in your feelings and you sit in your pain, it allows you to be able to know how to cope later on. Say something else happens, then you know how to cope with those feelings. You know how to deal with it. But when we avoid it and we try to run away from those feelings, it doesn't allow us to know how to cope if it comes up later on in our lives. We're not able to cope with it. We don't know how to cope with it because we never coped with it to begin with. So to me, you're just building and piling up all of these situations, thinking that you can cover it up. We think like, okay, if we just act like it doesn't exist, then it doesn't exist. But really, there's a huge mountain over here waiting to be acknowledged, but you just won't acknowledge it. So to me, you need to face that. You need to face the feelings before they start to pile up and manifest and become a huge, huge destructive thing in your life. So this is probably the biggest part in grieving, and it's probably one of the hardest parts, is that you need to let go of control. You have to let go of the fact that you cannot control the situation, and the more that you try to control the situation, you're just hurting yourself even more. And I'm gonna give a real life example. I actually asked one of my friends if I could use an example in this video. I'm not gonna be naming names, but a great example of this, and what a lot of people tend to do, is they try to control the situation to get an answer out of the person, you know, out of whoever had ended it. And in this particular situation, she tried to get an answer out of her ex by using her son. And the more she kept begging for an answer, the more she kept, and this is going to tie back into the last thing that I want to talk about, but the more she kept begging for an answer and the more she kept wanting an answer from him, she wasn't going to get it. He kept telling her, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to deal with you. And you know, when we get into that mode, we get into desperation mode. You know, we're thinking to ourselves, well, what can I do to get this answer out of this person? I want this person to give me an answer. They owe it to me to give me an answer. And when you get into that mode, you get desperate, you know. So she had used her son in that situation as a ways to try and control the situation so that he would end up giving her an answer, but he just wouldn't. He wasn't going to, he didn't care. And that's when you need to let go. You need to let go of control, because the more you keep trying to dig, the more you keep trying to get an answer out of somebody or think that they owe you something, you just keep hurting yourself, because that person is just going to keep giving you the same answer. And in all reality, you're just hurting yourself the more you ask, the more you try to control that situation. And I think she realized this after the fact that all of this had went down. And I constantly tell her, you know, you have to just let it go, because he doesn't care. I think this doesn't only have to pertain to women, it could pertain to men too. You know, say the girl broke up with the guy and the guy is going through the same thing. I'm not saying that children are the only ways to control. I think there are many, many, many other ways that people try to control a situation when they come to a breakup, to try and talk to that person, to try and get answers from that person. We try to use many other ways. It's not just kids. And I think the more you try to go down that road, it's just going to keep going down. You know, you're just going to keep disappointing yourself. You're going to keep getting hurt. So you have to let go. You have to let go and just let the situation be. And, you know, a lot of the times I have people ask me, you know, how did you do it? How did you do it? And there is no answer to that. You know, everybody is different. There's no answer to it. And for me, I got sick of my own shit. It's literally like a light bulb moment. And that's how I always describe it when anybody asks me. It's literally a light bulb moment. It's like a light switch just went off in my brain and said, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? And why do you keep doing this? And I got sick of, it wasn't even anybody else's fault. It was my fault for allowing myself to get that deep into my pain, for allowing myself to get that deep into my hurt. But I needed all of that. I needed every single piece of everything that happened to me for that light switch to go off and say, enough already, enough. But that situation with my friend, that's just one situation of how we try to, you know, control, and why we should just let go. When we're going through a breakup, we need to just let go of it. Another thing when it comes to grief is that you also have to realize that closure, in my personal opinion, closure is overrated. It really is. There is no such thing as closure. If you're trying to control a situation or you're trying to get an answer out of that person, there is no such thing as closure. You're never going to get closure with somebody, because The person that you need to have closure with is yourself, really. That's the truth. You need to have closure with yourself. You are the one who needs to let go. You are the one who has to say, okay, it's done already. I'm the one who needs to accept it. It's done. There is no right answer. There is no right response that I'm going to get from that person, because that's the truth. You know, we all talk about, oh, I need closure, I need closure. All I want is closure, but you're never going to get it. Because no matter what that person says, you're never going to hear the words that you want to hear. You're never going to get the answer that you want to get. And sometimes you're never going to even get the truth. So there is no such thing as closure. Whether we get an answer or we don't, we're never going to get the answer that we want. And I tell this to all of my friends who, you know, talk to me about this kind of topic, is that there is no such thing as closure. You're never going to hear what you want to hear. So stop trying to look for it. Stop trying to search for it, because really the closure begins when you accept it, when you acknowledge it, and you tell yourself, this relationship is over and I need to accept it for what it is. Also tying back into, you know, that light, what I call the light bulb moment or the light switch moment, you have to stop playing the victim. I do think that for a certain amount of time, you are allowed to play the victim of what had happened to you. But after a certain point, like I said, you have to get sick of your own shit. You have to tell yourself, okay, all of these horrible things may have happened to me, but what am I going to do with it now? Am I going to sit here and feel sorry for myself for an entire year? Or am I going to stop this and do something with what had happened to me? Am I going to allow myself to heal from this? And once you go through all of these things and accept all of these parts of grief, then I believe that real healing starts. That is when you know you're ready to start healing. But until you are able to accept these things that we experience through grief, I don't think there's growth or healing that's possible. So I hope that by listening to this message, by hearing what I have learned from my experience, and also what I've, you know, learned from other people's experiences, that you guys are able to take any piece or part of this information and be able to use it when it comes to your journey, or even somebody that you know. Maybe you can send this video over to somebody that you know is going through something similar. But before you guys leave, if you guys like today's video, please do not forget to like. Likes allow me to know that you guys are enjoying this content and that you guys like this content. So with that said, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.